when the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality. Open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with your friends, so join the book club by DLC.
That's right. It's that time, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to boogie in your seat. That's right. It's time to dance and talk about books because it's DLC Book Club time. I'm Jeff Kanata. I'm here with Lana Bashinsky, who is on location. We've sent her on location into Bookland. She's inside a book right now, coming to us live from inside a book.
These are the pages. They are yet blank. The story we will write together. I am here in Seattle, well, technically Bellevue, looking for my next place to live because we're going to be moving up here. So, sound quality maybe not what you're expecting, but, hey, we're here. We're doing it.
We're here. We're doing it. We're committed. We got 4 chapters to talk about. We've been working our way through the second novel of the Malazan Books of the Fallen, Deadhouse Gates by Steven Erikson. And we are in the home stretch. Holy moly. We did 4 chapters this week, which, by the way, thank you to those who suggested breaking it up this way, because my goodness, was this a perfect ending point. I'm just going to say it right here at the top. This is the first time in these 2 books that I have wept. I was tears streaming down my face. We'll get to that. But my goodness, what 4 chapters we have to get to. We always start the show, though, with a non-spoiler topic for folks that might not be all the way caught up with where we are reading. And I know, Lana, this week you had a topic you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I know in the past I have brought up, or anytime I talk about books, I almost always bring up Voices from the Wild, which was one of my favorite books to read as a kid because of the artistic experience it gave me or whatever. But I don't know if we've actually explicitly talked about like our sort of reading experiences as kids in general, either like the first book. Like, do you remember the first book that you read where you were like, oh man, either just like the first book that you read, period, or the first book that you read where you were like, I think I'm a reader. That's who I am.
I have a terrible memory. It constantly pains me how I can't recall very specific things from my childhood. So I can't be sure what that is, but there are a few contenders for the throne there. I know that books were a big part of my childhood, like just around, my dad and my mom both read, and, stories were, one of the things that I loved about being a kid was my dad used to tell us stories before bedtime. And I used to think he was weaving these amazing tales. And now I realize he was just like telling, like cribbing from other things, and just retelling, which is what I do with my kids too. So it's, but I distinctly remember being able to, when I was very young, I don't know what age, but my mom bringing my sister and I to the library, and we could pick anything we wanted. And there are 2 books. There was a bunch of like real kids books that had pictures and stuff, called Mrs. Pigglewiggle, and she lived in an upside down house, and she always solved. They were like, it was almost like an episodic TV show, like MacGyver or something, where she would solve a kid's problem in some bizarre way, like making him eat pickles or something. And I just thought that was amazing. She lived in this upside down house, and if a kid had a problem, they would go to Mrs. Pigglewiggle, and she would solve the problem for them. But those were still, and there was like a witch series of books that I vividly remember. I can't recall the title of, but those were like picture books. I don't know if this was the first, but it was certainly one of the most memorable. Was an actual no pictures, read the book that completely, I think one of the books that opened my mind to genre storytelling was this book called The Girl with the Silver Eyes, which I have looked up here on the internet and is evidently was released in January of 1980. This was written by Willow Davis Roberts, and it was a girl who I think has telekinetic powers. And I don't recall the details of it, but man, the looking at the cover just completely takes me back. And it was this amazing book about this girl who had superpowers. And I think I was already into comic books at that time. I mean, I read comic books very young. And so, yeah, I vividly remember that little paperback and reading that book and just feeling, and I remember the transition between books with pictures and books with no pictures being a big deal for me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
Do you remember how old you were when you made like the transition?
Gosh, I have no clue. I can make a wild guess, but it would be only that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you growing up, my parents read to us before bed. Particularly my dad did. You know, my mom hangs out with us all day. My dad working the job, and then coming home and hanging out with us and reading us to us before bed was like one of our big hang out with pops activities. And my parents wanted to make sure that we like read all the classics. And so nice. My parents would read to us like classics, like
you got Dostoevsky right before bed for the kids.
Exactly. Like Anne of Green Gables and The Little Lame Prince and Black Beauty. And that's honestly, great. I don't remember most of the books because I was quite small. But I remember loving that experience. And so much that like when we'd go on like car rides, we'd be like, all right, you know, was a long drive out to like whatever lake we're going to hang out at for the summer. Can you like read to us? And my parents were like, well, we're driving the car, or we're not going to read to you. But my parents would also make up stories. And there's like this one story that like our whole family, my parents would like make up stories. And of course, the protagonist in the story, one of them happened to be named Lana. One of them happened to be named Emily. Ooh, it was very special. The snake who stole the sun was like the coolest story my parents ever made up.
Wow.
But as far as like reading and love of reading, the first book that I can remember, I don't know. It's so, it's probably something honestly by Shel Silverstein now that I'm like thinking of it. But one of the ones that I remember personally, my experience of going and picking something off the shelf and being like, I'm going to read this. It's not a picture book. It's only got word. There's only words in there.
Yeah. And
I'm making the choice to read this was actually The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon by Stephen King.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's one of the first ones I remember being like, oh, this is my agency I'm a child. I'm doing this. I must have been like, I mean, I was still like 10 or 11. And it's not like one of his freakier stories. And it's about a young girl getting lost in the woods. And I remember that being the moment where I was like, this is like scary, but I like the feeling I get when I read this scary book. Felt very adult to read this scary book about the girl who is roughly my age in the woods with her parents.
That was published in 1999.
It was published in 1999. Then yeah, I must have been 10.
Oh, no. I was graduating from college. I graduated from college in 1999. Oh, well, that's the last episode of the show, everybody. Sorry. Bye.
It's been fun.
Oh my God. I had read so much Stephen King by that point. I remember reading Stephen King in the bunk beds of my summer camp. And I would read the naughty bits of it out loud to people. Oh man. Yeah, I was like, Jeff will read it. Jeff will read it out loud. The other thing I want to bring up on this topic real quickly, because I'm hoping maybe someone in our audience can help me with this. I have often tried to figure out what this book is. I read a book when I was a kid. It was a children's book. It was something like The Girl with the Silver Eyes in complexity and sort of, made for a very specific age, which is like 8-year-olds or something, where it was a story about a kid, I believe, who could go into the fourth dimension. This might be The Girl with the Silver Eyes. That might be what happens, but because I have it linked in my head, but I think it's a different book. But it blew my mind as a kid because it described what it would be like stepping into the fourth dimension. And it was like, described it as stepping up and out, and that you could be in the fourth dimension. And it was so mind-blowing to me as a child, this description of dimensions in general and what living in the fourth dimension and looking at three-dimensional things from the fourth dimension. So if anybody knows what the heck I'm talking about, I would love to recall what that book was, but it had a big impact on me.
I love crowdsourcing memories. Like,
Yeah.
I often talk, at least I think I've talked about it like on DLC, the main show with you and Christian before. But right before the show, you were talking about like, oh, I don't have memories for these specific details.
Yeah.
I don't either. Like most of the time, but I do have an identical twin sister, and I cannot believe how many times that like I'm like I have to crowdsource my memory, and she's like another brain in a bank that I
That's
can
so
just
rad that
access.
you have that.
It's
Lucky.
great. Lucky extra brain walking around the world, having her own life, but
Yeah. But also
like
was there literally
external hard drive.
every moment you were there, she was there. Like there was no gap.
Yes.
There's no difference.
Yeah. Until we were like 16 years old. Any childhood memories? Emily, what happened? Right.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that was what happened.
That's called memory redundancy. It's nice to have it. All right. We got a lot to get to for these 4 chapters. And so I think it is time to start spoilers now for chapters 18, 19, 20, and 21 of Deadhouse Gates. This is in book Deadhouse Gates of novel Deadhouse Gates. All right. So we're going to do our best to not get in the weeds here, organize our thoughts. Chapter 18, actually, I think is very focused. It's mostly hanging out with Fiddler and the gang as they approach the Deadhouse Gates itself, the Deadhouse, the Azath house. There's a little bit of Felisin / Shaik, and we'll get to that. But most of chapter 18 is Fiddler, Mappo, Icarium, Absolar, Crocus, Pust, as they try to navigate their way through this maze. They've arrived at the area of the Azath house. And of course, as we know from Gardens of the Moon, the grounds around one of these dead houses is treacherous. It's full of vines and all kinds of crazy stuff. And there's this maze that we get to. And because so many of the Soul Taken and Divers are trying to get there because they think it's the Path of Hands, there's a lot of chaos and craziness. Even as they're walking up, we're hearing all this sounds of battles and screams and violence happening all around them. And there's a lot of discussion about the Nameless Ones and Mappo's past and trying to figure out exactly the truth of what happened in Icarium's past and whether Icarium actually wiped out Mappo's clan. What did you make of all that stuff?
I feel like all those conversations and like the specificity of it, I feel like I let myself, as I have many times in this book, like float on top of all of the potential avenues for it. And I just sort of floating along on being like, there seems like there's a lot of tension here. I guess we'll see if this is true or not eventually. Right. So one of those places I didn't let my brain like try and dig too deep or think too hard about it. Mostly there for the building of the overall tension.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to sort of navigate through it and figure out what is important, what to grab onto. And, you know, my interpretation, and this could very well be flawed, but is that, so Mappo is part of a group of people. Nameless ones recruit folks to accompany Ikariam and prevent Ikariam from remembering things, and try to prevent Ikariam from getting into his crazy rages that he gets into, where he murders entire civilizations. And every one of those people in the past has been murdered by Ikariam, and then they replace them. And there's evidently some sort of staff where they're like, dink, you forget, boop, you forget, boop. All right, we murdered everybody, boop, you forgot about it. Which seems like a very inefficient way to prevent this whole thing from happening.
Have they considered therapy for Ikariam? Maybe there's a way that they can just kind of work that out, work out his rage.
Murder me once, shame on you. Murder me over countless millennia, shame on me, you know? So there's so much talk about the sort of way that is all handled by the Nameless Ones, and whether they are servants of Azath and what they want. And, you know, there's this moment that I thought was pretty funny, actually, where, you know, maybe this happens later on, but when Hust is like, I hate munitions. This is much later when they get munitions, but it's like, I hate bombs. Like, what kind of moron invented bombs? And they're like, well, Kalamved, the guy that you worship, who ascended, he invented the bombs. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of detail there that I think will probably carry forward and be relevant later. But you know, these are the servants of Azath. Kalamved and Dancer had their talons kill them. You know, there's all this detail that I think is all backstory that I think is significant. But yeah, I kind of let it wash over me as well. But the stuff starts getting crazy as they're getting closer and closer. And we have these wonderful imagery of this maze of alien arms.
Like they're like, I can't even begin to guess what the different species are that are trapped within these walls. Just their limbs are sticking out. It's but their
limbs are straight up not human. Definitely not. We know one thing: they monsters. You know, there's crazy multi-jointed arms and things. We find out later that the specific multi-jointed arms are from the other elder race that is the Fukral Assail or whatever they're called. So maybe that's part of it, but it's just a really awesome image of these arms reaching and stretching and grasping at things, even as, and some of them are even ascendants. Some of them are even gods that have been trapped here. And even as these soul taken are rushing through, we have that awesome sequence with Mesreb, the big bear soul taken, that is like charging through, and things are grabbing at its fur, and it's just like ripping through them like they're nothing. Really cool sequence, I thought.
Really cool sequence, and like the moments of like what feel like profound tragedy that go by so quickly, like in the blink of an eye. They're like, oh my God, there's this bear soul taken charging at us. Time to kill, because it's like we don't know any better. And it's like, no, this one's our friend. And now he's immediately like, we don't even get to hear from him. He charges through, he basically like saves them from the other soul taken, and then both of them are immediately like reached out to the vines, and the arms cling and rip them into the walls. And like,
don't the hounds leap up, and the hounds of shadow leap up and like rip a paw off of it, and like
it's like whole arm off of it. It says that it like grabs its arm and then shakes its head like a dog would do with a toy and tears its limb off its body. And it's like, we don't even get to hear from him, but that was our friend, and now he's goodbye. You're like trapped forever. Your soul will be forever burning in agony in the walls of the Azath maze. Okay,
sorry.
Well, bye. Thanks.
Sorry, Mesreb. Okay, so we're, you know, it's crazy. There's wasp swarms, all these divers and soul taken come from everywhere. It's just insanity, and it's like, well, we're gonna have to wake up Ikariam and save us. No. Keep him cool. Keep him chill. So that's basically what chapter 18 is, you know. Oh, the big thing that happens at the end of it,
the rats.
What?
Was it the rats in this
The
chapter?
rats, and then Fiddler's like, okay, cool. I got one more cusser in here. I got one more big grenade. I got one more cool bomb. I'm gonna grab it. I don't need to look. I know it's in there. I'm just gonna grab it. Feels right. Yep, no problem. Throw that bad boy. Oops, not a bomb. Something much more crazy. A conch shell, and it's the Thanos Spirit Walker conch shell, which unleashes this massive song of pain, this
gosh.
voices screaming out that just obliterates everything, knocks out Icarium. Fiddler goes to the ground. It just incinerates all the rats. Very cool, I thought.
Very cool. And like such a great payoff for that moment early on where he's like, okay, I won't touch you and get your story, but have a great day, pats him on the back. Like, but we're like, didn't he just touch him?
Yeah. No, you were so great. I remember you pointing that out. And then even Mappo at the end is like, did he touch you? He's like, I don't remember him touching you. He's like, he knew that gift was not commensurate with you just like saving that kid. He knew. He's like, I don't remember him touching me.
You saved my child. Have a song of pain that will obliterate thousands.
So true.
No reason, just a little gift. Just thinking of you kind of thing.
You know what? Unwrap it when you want to.
Yeah.
You don't have to unwrap it here. The other scene that happens in chapter 18 is Felisin arriving and, full on shaiking hard. Like she is shaiking hard at this point. She's shaiking it like a Polaroid picture.
She's all shaked up.
Yeah. And arriving, she is adopting the little orphans. One girl in particular, she's like, you my girl. And then assessing all of the people there, which I thought was really awesome. There are these 3 high mages, and she accesses Elder Shaik's memories to like totally figure them all out and realizes, who's who and what's what. And like for a god or a goddess that is or a part goddess or whatever you want to call Shaik, that is going to start the rebellion and save your people and free them, sure don't get treated right. Like poisoned multiple times by her high mages.
Yeah.
Not cool high mages.
Not
cool.
Yeah, high mages, what are they there for if not to keep you on your toes?
I guess that's true. True.
I have lots of enemies and I need you to pretend you're my enemies sometimes. But don't tell me when. I want to maybe die.
I thought that part was cool where she's just like, yep, High Mage 1, got you. Cool, fine. High Mage 2, yeah, you're trying to kill me. High Mage 3, kind of like you. Don't know what your deal is.
Can't read you almost at all, which I assume means you're good.
Yeah.
So we'll take a half knee. I'll take a half knee. That moment was very interesting to me because, reading up to it was like, is Shaik or is Felisin just deciding now? I could be a goddess. Or we're like, is she like faking it till she makes it? But then now she's like mind reading these people, knows all about them, and I guess it pays off way, 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 way sort of at the end of chapter 21. Not like fully pays off, but like you get conversation about it. We're up to this point. I'm like, all right, I guess she is.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, we're skipping ahead a bit, but I do think it is interesting how Heberick is like, you're not Shaik reborn. Things that are born don't choose whether they're born or not. They just get born. Yeah. You're Shaik remade. And I'm like, that's a pretty cool distinction, I think. And that she has entered into this deal with Elder Shaik, and they have come to an agreement of like, okay, I access your memories and your sick powers, but I still get to be me. And I think that's really interesting. Like Felisin is, you're messing me up with all your pronunciations. Now I don't even know what's what.
I know.
I was reading it and I was like, is it Kalam? Felisin. That sounds cooler. Kalam is better than Kalam. And what did you call her?
Felisin.
Oh, come on. I don't know what's what anymore.
Felisin.
No, you can do whatever.
What we got.
You can do whatever you want, but I feel like
it's Kalam and Felisin.
I feel like you've been cringing every time I've been talking about it for weeks.
No, I'm yes-anding.
Okay. All right. So chapter 19. This is a lot of Duker and the gang trying to make it to Aren. And the craziness hasn't really started yet, but it's real bad. Bad. We
I'm like
are
heartbroken just knowing we're at the start of the end talking
Dude.
about it here in this chapter.
Yeah. It's hard not to skip ahead because it's so powerful what happens in chapter 21. Chapter 21 is maybe my favorite chapter that we've read of either novel so far. It is just exquisite. We'll get to it. But before that, we are still, trying to get through I like that Erikson takes a moment to have a straight up comedy scene here because it's so dark. All these people are dying of thirst and hunger. We have, I think in this chapter, we have literally a description of like the Wiccans have decided that their horses are so important that, they'll give the horses the water and they'll drink the horse piss. And, the nobles are like, hey, we'll buy the horses from you. And they just rub human excrement on the request and send it back. People are just collapsing as they walk. It's bad. Also, we still have, attacks on their flanks and people getting murdered as they walk. I mean, it's real bad. But we have this straight up comedy scene where Coltaine is going to promote one of the sappers and doesn't realize that he's actually demoting him. I loved it. This is such a charming little detour that we go on to just like have a chuckle, have some humanity among these people, and like characterizes the sappers as these grizzled, hardened, like self-serious, weirdos that even Coltaine doesn't know how to handle them exactly.
Especially like because like the intent of the promotion was coming out of like a place of such gravitas. Like he wasn't approaching, he was like the vigilance to which you served. Like, I'm so impressed. Like, it's so like, here's my serious statement about your work honoring you. Demoted. And all of them are like, I think it's like another moment that's so human. And like, even in like the most tragic times that I've faced in my life, there is some dumb moment of levity that you find that is like a beautiful little, like a tiny little breath between the rest of the sadness. And I agree. This was beautiful. It was beautiful.
And it illustrates this notion that Erikson has introduced slightly before that with Duker of the need for this sleight of hand. This the only way we can get through is not thinking about it, basically, like this illusion of something else happening. And this moment encapsulates that notion, that idea of, we can still laugh in the face of unfathomable misery and pain. Yeah. And then here's something and everybody's chuckling and, it's just sleight of hand, right? It's a beautiful, I've never seen that expressed quite like that. And I thought it was lovely. Mm-hmm. And then, this other woman, Mincer. Oh no, Mincer is the other captain. Then the other woman, Bungle, promotes her. Yeah. He's like, you should listen to her because she's now your. It's very funny, very funny.
Yeah.
And then we get, all of this backstory about the land and the Jag Hut and the Talana Moss, and lists the Jag Hut that has been, incepting his dreams and giving him all these visions. And we learn about that awfulness where the Talana Moss know that they can't kill the Jag Huts. So they literally just break every bone in their body and trap them under rocks for all eternity. Woof.
Yeah. You really gotta not like somebody a lot.
You really gotta. Yeah.
You gotta not like them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't seem like, their justification is like they are slightly inconvenient to all of us, It's, they created these walls of ice around. Nah, we don't like it. And they're kind of cocky and weird. They keep themselves, I don't know. Let's break every bone in their body and trap them under rocks for all eternity. We also have some stuff with Kalam or Kalam. in the Rag Stopper, where he does the thing that I can't do, which is you have a very important thing, one of a kind. You can use it one time. He's like, I'm using it. Like, I'm going to call Quick Ben. Very funny that you brought up Quick Ben last episode, and you're like, everybody talks about Quick Ben. We haven't heard Quick Ben in this book, in this novel. And then here he's like, smash. Quick Ben, what's up? Quick Ben's like, oh, dude, it's bad. Real bad. Bridge burners. Ouch. Oh, I'm losing a lot of blood. You called? What do you need?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, man. I hope we find out what's going on with the bridge burners.
Yeah, I know. That's so funny. Also, look, so since last week, was it last week? Was it 2 weeks ago? I don't remember. You know, there's certain things that my brain is just like, almost like when I'm talking about it, I like forget certain details, and then forgetting those details makes me be like, oh, maybe this is what's happening. And it's like, no, Erikson just wrote literally a sentence about what's happening. And one of those things is that the mage on the boat is Kalam.
Yeah.
It said that in the previous chapter. I was like, is it the captain? And I just want to say, I know. That was dumb.
It's okay. It's beautiful. I love it. I love theories, and then we can dash the theories or confirm the theories. It's fun. It's cool.
Theories have my own forgetfulness. But it's just I thought it literally haunted me all week, because I feel like we ended the episode and then I was like, I think the last sentence in the chapters were like, and suck along, dang mages, and I was like, oh.
That's okay. That's okay. That's what we're here for. You know, get it wrong, get it right. That's all part of it.
Anyway, conversation with Quick Ben, and Quick Ben's like, you know, you can do this is like your one time.
Yeah. You were supposed to call me when you were going to murder the Empress.
Yeah.
That is what the red phone is, the murder the Empress phone. Yeah. So, but he's like, but like, is there a Warren that makes me a little foggy? He's like, oh yeah, that's definitely what it is. Yeah, you definitely are in that Warren, bro. That Warren is crazy powerful and crazy old, and you're in it. Also, I'm losing a lot of blood. Bye.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, I'm the guy that even if I was like, there's the Empress, I got to kill her, I could need this later. I might need this later. That's what I would be.
I'm going to end the video game with the key item it gave me at the beginning.
Yeah. The super mega invincibility potion. I might need that later. Need that later. So, back to Mappo and Fiddler. Mappo decides like, hey, Ikariam may have murdered my entire clan, or maybe not. Like, maybe I got that wrong. Either way, I like my buddy. I'm going to defend and prevent the Azath house from taking him.
Yeah.
But things are getting bad.
And something we didn't mention with like the rats, like the rats start swarming them, and before Fiddler releases the conch, Ikariam's like getting in a rage mode, and Mappo, I guess, just clocks him.
Yeah. Just
knocks him out cold. So it feels like Ikariam's in like a stupor for basically the rest of all the chapters. So
yes.
The Mappo's decided like, I'm doing anything it's taking to save this guy. And as they approach the house, it's getting like, he can't hold them down, kind of. Yeah,
it's getting real bad. They're getting attacked from all sides, and they got to get into the house. And Absalar is like, all you got to do is like believe in yourself. You know, walk into the building. Walk into the building like you belong there. That's all it takes. You know, just do the Eddie Murphy thing. Like, I'm here to check the vents. You know, I'm sorry. And she's like, just check it out. Watch, click. It doesn't work. Everybody try. Everybody try. Nobody can get in. And our little friend Moby shows up. And well, go ahead.
Before that, something I thought was beautiful that added to the extreme tension, and also was like, oh, that was from before. Like the divers that's coming at them is the swarm of blood flies that I think is definitely the same swarm of blood flies, or at least like a diver's taking the same form as a swarm of blood flies that got Felisin way, way, way back in the camp. Because Hedrick was like, I have never seen them swarm like that. And to me, that's
Good
like,
call.
oh, that's a Divers that was on the path of hands this whole time. And so we know that thing is going to mess them up. And all of them
Good
like, touch the
call.
handle.
No,
as this
that's
thing
such a
is
good call. I didn't
approaching.
put that together. That's so good. And the
Yeah.
other thing is I can't remember what it's called. It begins with an E. The big ox-sized reptile thing. Whatever it is, the big winged crazy thing. They also were like, we were attacked by one of those. There are also a Divers. There's more of them. I thought that was cool too. So yeah, it's all been the same things the whole time.
Yeah.
But then Moby shows up, and Moby is just this little adorable familiar, but I guess not. Moby is much more.
I love Moby.
Moby is delightful. Great music. 90s reference. And Moby touches the door, opens up. They all fall in to the house. Okay. Now we get to the part. I think this is the part. Yes, the part that I have a problem with. Now, this is, I don't, if you have this as well. Same?
Same.
Okay.
Big same.
We have a little, what I would consider to be a little Deus Ex Machina action.
A little convenience has appeared.
And, again, reserving the right to change this opinion later if this all is explained or comes into focus. I'm sure this guild is going to have a big part to play because it just seems way too powerful. The Trigale Trade Guild, which I love the name. And I'm going to fight you if you are trying to pronounce that one differently, because I think it's supposed to be a goofy Trigale Trade Guild. I think it's supposed to sound like
a jingle.
Like a jingle. Yeah. I could be wrong, but
I also want to go,
I like that.
And I'm like racking my brain to see if we heard any, have I seen those words in any order, or even Trade Guild, or
yeah.
There's nothing about it that I felt like I heard previously. So it was like, oh.
Yeah, so we're with Duker and Coltaine, and things are bad. Everybody's about to die, and all of a sudden, a bunch of wacky wacky wagons, fall out of a warren. Hood's warren seems like a pretty scary warren to go through. They've been moving across the country, depleted, impoverished, ready to collapse. And it's like, hey, did somebody say food?
Yeah. I definitely pictured it literally Cinderella pumpkin carriages coming out of the sky. The most magical fairy godmother. When you wish upon a star.
It's like, hey, Kool-Aid. And then they smash through the wall.
Yes. Oh my gosh. But I'm looking forward to thinking this was cooler than I did in the moment.
I agree. I did not. Even this moment felt not cool, but the next appearance feels even more like, what? But we'll get to that in a second. So the Trigale Trade Guild is based in Drujistan, which is where Gardens of the Moon is set. The other continent, alchemists, mages, sorcerers got together, pirates got together, and they have sick fund where we can do cool things, go on expeditions, awesome stuff. And when people are
in danger,
if you're in danger and no one else can help, maybe you can find the A team. It's like that, one of those actions. And they come out and they give food and water to the army, and then they peace out. It's like, we could have used that weeks ago. It just feels very, very strange, especially because it doesn't actually turn the tide here. I don't understand it. I don't understand why we needed to have the tension relieved in this weird way, only for the tension to come back. Right. But I think I think the TTG is going to be important in some way later on. And so they needed to be established.
Let me tell you, they better be. That's where I'm at. It's
a very odd thing. It's a very odd as you said, very convenient. It feels very Deus Ex Machina, but also it like didn't actually impact anything because they get replenished, but then things are bad immediately again.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's not like they arrived with like all of the stores that they would need, plus like everlasting gobstopper of strength that gives everybody the power to fight on. It was just like, everybody take your one mouthful and goodbye.
Right. Yeah. And I do think that a much more interesting way for them to deal with being completely decimated and in impossible odds is what happens next, which is making deals with these other clans in the lands they're walking through. They have these two, the Kundril, who they're like, hey, we're the most awesome clan ever, but the only way for us to know for sure is for us to join you and fight against Corbolo Dom and all those impossible odds. So we're gonna kick some ass and find out who's strongest.
I don't know if that one didn't read to me as like cutting a deal. It read to me as like these other tribes are like, we've heard that you think you're badass,
right?
Or you can kiss my ass. I'll show you who's badass. And then it ends and they're like, okay, you're pretty badass.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. I think that's such a much better way. I mean, for me, it felt like a more satisfying way for them to survive in a situation where they couldn't possibly survive. Is like this other tribe comes in and is like, we're going to help you, but only because we've heard we want to test ourselves. I thought that was cool. And then the other tribe that they encounter, they're like, we took literally all our money because we don't care about money right now. We'll give you all of our money. And they're like, that's too much money. I love that.
Well, I like that they were like, oh, cool. All of the money. Sounds like everybody's wages. No, that is not honorable. We're not accepting it. And they're like, actually, basically, we all know we're going to die. They don't need the money.
Yeah.
Take the money.
Take the money.
Yeah. Well, that's too much. Well, that's too much now. It's like, like everything is like, not
well, now I got to give
right.
you something else. What do I have around here? I guess an escort will be cool. Yeah. So that is why, another reason why the Trigale Trade Guild thing felt so incongruous is because there are these much cooler, more grounded, more satisfying, more like not out of left field ways that Erikson has found to like, oh yeah, awesome, wow, man, that's lucky, or that's fortunate, or that feels tonally correct.
It feels like the characters have agency in the solution, where in this case it was like a non-solution that they were like, okay, like a little whirlwind, if you'll pardon the tie-in.
Yeah. But and for my money, it's even worse when they show up in the Deadhouse, because we're like, we've tried really hard to get here. It's been really, really hard. Only certain people can open the door, and they're like, oh no, it's cool. I just here I am. It just felt so. It felt like it stole.
They did show up outside the Deadhouse, right? They basically were like, knock, knock.
No, maybe I read it wrong, but I thought they showed up. They're inside now. The door is slammed shut to prevent the Soul Taken Endeavors from getting in.
And then I thought they were like, what is that noise? Something's happening outside. And they like peek the door, and the guy's like, it's totally safe out here now, bro. We got you.
Oh, really?
I think so.
I could have read that wrong.
So I'm pretty sure they're not. I'm pretty sure that they didn't show up in the Deadhouse, but it still didn't make it like less convenient to me. But at least I was like, oh great, yeah, here's the convenient patrol giving their convenience away. Awesome.
And there's something cool about Quick Ben sending care packages from far away and like anticipating problems.
Was Kalam's conversation with Quick Ben before both of these?
Yes.
Did he was that a conversation that they had? Are we just not like registering that Kalam was like, people need help over here. I need help. And then maybe Quick Ben reached out all his feelers and was like, oh, everybody needs help.
It's possible. But
it was
the way that they describe,
wasn't it?
What?
But those, the what did you call it? The TTG?
Yeah.
The TTG, they were sent from Dujek, not Quickbent. I guess they're probably together. I don't know.
Well,
Anyway.
the original explanation for Duker and the gang getting supplies was like, hey, we heard how hard this is all the way over in the other continent. We want to help. We all cobbled together. We're like, really, we should all help. But then showing up at to Fiddler, my understanding was that it was Quickbend saying, hey, you're gonna need some more bombs, bro.
Yeah.
Which also felt like such a weird. Oh, the other thing that we forgot to mention was they deliver this necklace to Coltaine. That like Coltaine never take this off, and Coltaine's like, I'm definitely taking this off immediately. Like I don't want this. Which we don't. At least in these chapters, we don't know exactly what the importance of that is, but I suspect it's going to be very important.
Man, how badly did you want Coltaine to have that necklace in chapter 21?
Oh my god!
I'm like, I don't know what it does,
but it can't be worse than what's happening now.
Yeah.
It's got to be a little bit of a help, right? Yeah, and it was like Empress Lysine needs people like Coltaine to not die, so wear this, bro. And he's like, I'm not wearing that. I want to choose when I die. It's like, buddy, come on. But yeah, I mean, I think there's so much that I liked in these chapters, and it's this TTG thing just felt so incongruous to all of the stakes that we've established, all of how difficult things have been. And then it's just like, well, we can show up right here, no problem. We can just go through Hood's thing, no problem. It's like, oh, really?
Why don't you show up to? Why don't you? If you're like doing these things because they're like, well, because I think I remember them being like, well, we do it because we make the big bucks. It's the most dangerous thing, but we make that money. And I like couldn't Coltaine be like, how do you want all these wages? Let us pass through.
Yeah, like, I mean, I that was another thought I had too. Like you said, is like just if that's easy to move, just like move all the people. But I think the understanding is supposed to be that going through
it's limited.
Going through Hood's Warren is not easy, and they're risking their life. And they were even saying, like, we have to go alarmingly fast on our wagons, or else we're going to get killed. And that's why they like come crashing out at the end, and at their destination point. Yeah. Anyway, it was the one moment where I was like, But chapter 20, we are back on the Rag Stopper as we're getting close to Malaz City. And Sulky Lan is like, hey, I want to help you kill Lysine. That's what you're doing, right? He's like, no, I'm not actually doing that. I'm not killing Lysine. He's like, yeah, you are. You're totally killing Lysine. And then, oh gosh,
he's
what
like,
else?
I'm not a cop. I just want you to say out loud that you're killing Lysine.
Yeah. If you're a cop, you have to tell me you're a cop. That's the rules. Yeah. All right. What else happens in chapter 20 here?
Did we get to the portal in the Deadhouse? I forget which chapter that is.
The portal? What do you mean?
They're like in the Deadhouse.
Actual door of the Deadhouse. Yeah, we're in. I think we're at the door where they read the quote from Kalam about elements in opposition. So that was cool. I think that happens in this chapter. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry if I'm jumping ahead.
No, it's okay. What did you want to bring up about that?
Oh, just like all the little. I felt like everything that happened with Crocus and Fiddler and the gang did have a nice little like, and that's the end of our little story here. Like moment kind of tie in. They're like in the house and they're like, okay, Akariam like passed out once we got to the house. He didn't go into rage mode, so that seems good, but who knows how that's going to shake out. But at least he's asleep for now. Like little denouement. And then, it turns out Moby, he's a tiny little guy, but really he's possibly a soul-taken guardian that every time they're like, we hear crazy battles happening around us in the whirlwind, that's like Moby ripping other people apart for them.
Yeah.
And following them the whole time. Pretty cool. And then they all go, I'm pretty sure there's a portal. And people are like, how do you know that? And Absolar's like, obviously the possession, everybody. Why is this still something I have to tell people? Dad. It's Dancer's memories. We know this.
Yeah.
And then they all say, apparently there's a portal and we can get somewhere else. But they're like,
Well, yeah, all of the
All right, let's go.
houses are linked, right? That was the
Yeah.
plan, is that we're going to use these. Just feels very hard, but we're going to
Yeah.
use these as like, connection point
Gates.
jumping. That was the plan all along.
Yeah.
But the other thing you didn't mention about Moby is they find the dead, ancient corpse, and they're like, each of these Azath houses has a keeper. I thought they were immortal, but this one's dead. And then Moby becomes the keeper, which I thought was cool. There we have that short little scene where Moby like goes up to the suit of armor, and the suit of armor is like, "Oh, I don't have to be alone anymore.
Yeah.
This is rad." I thought that was cool.
It made me be like these dead houses or whatever. Is the house? It had Tremolor is the name. I'm like, people are like, oh, Tremolor is the location. I'm like, is Tremolor this entity? Is this Tremolor is like a person, or for lack of a better word, that actually has a being, and it's not just this. People say, oh, we're heading to Tremolor. Like people are saying, oh, we're heading to Atlantis or something. But then when the suit of armor is like, what's up, little buddy? I'm like, oh, Tremolor, you lonely, honey?
Well,
you
yeah,
out there
because
just...
or
is that somebody else?
We're told, that might be somebody else. I am not clear on that, but we're told that the Azath house can be killed, right? Which would release all of the. It's basically what you said last week or the week before, where you're like, it does seem like it would be bad if the Azath house died and every trapped ascendant god is released, which is exactly what Apslar says. I think she's like, this would be very bad if all of these things were released.
But I was thinking, like, when I'm like, oh yeah, it can be killed because it's like vines, like it's living in that it's like some kind of like magics. I didn't expect it to be like, oh, what's up? Welcome to Tremolor, little guy. We gonna have so many hangs. Like, I didn't expect it to like talk to me.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like an exciting thing. I'm like reminded of something that's like tickling my brain. I'll think of it later.
Yeah.
But yeah.
My kids are watching a show on Disney Plus called Mickey Mouse's Funhouse, and the house itself is a character. They call him Funny.
Yeah.
Funny the Funhouse. He's like, "Hey, come inside me, everybody!" And I was like, oh, that's similar. I'm sure that's where they got it from. They probably got it from the Malazan Books of the Fallen. That's probably where they were inspired on the adorable children's show.
Come inside. I won't trap your body in an eternity of agony like I have all the other ascended beings.
Ignore all the crazy alien arms reaching out at you.
Mickey and Goofy's battle with the shapeshifters.
Every time Mickey gets angry, civilizations are wiped out.
It's more of a Donald Duck thing.
Yeah,
I
it
think.
is.
Yeah.
I destroyed them all.
Oh my God! Sorry.
Now
I
I'm
did
just-
not.
Now I'm just
That
showing
was
off.
delightful. Oh
right.
my Lord. Okay.
Okay, so what else? Oh, okay, we got back to Duker. This is when Coltaine says, "Hey, Duker, I'm gonna die. Basically, I'm gonna go die. You have to lead the refugees the last bit of the way." And this is when Duker's like, "Well, take this, bro. This is that necklace thing." And he's like, "No, you take the necklace thing. I'm not taking it." And his, Duker's little girlfriend, lady, Marine, the female Marine, nameless female Marine, gives him a piece of cloth, says, "Don't read this." And I was like, "Oh, read it though. Like, read it. I want to read it." He hasn't read it yet. So I'm very curious what's on that. And this is when all he gets the escort all up to like the last 3 leagues of the way. And they're like, "Okay, all you got to do is get from here to there. This is as far as we can get you. Got to go from here to there." And Duker's like, "All right, I don't care what it takes. Scare them, threaten them, hurt them. They're running because over there, across those big mounds, which are funeral
bodies,
literally burial sites, mass graves. There's a
The
big cloud
conical
of
hills.
sand."
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep talking. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I love that description of like very unnatural feeling conical hills that are just like I can picture a pile of bodies as easily as anyone can, covered in grass though, or whatever. It was I just like that description. Sorry, continue.
Yeah,
The dust cloud.
amazing.
looming.
And they're like, well, at least those will cause a little bit of a slowdown for the approaching army. He's like, but they're going literally straight across them. And I like how he's like, well, did they even know that there were bumps there? He's like, no, they have old maps. The maps don't include the funeral mounds, the burial sites. I thought that was a cool little detail too.
Mm-hmm.
But they're coming. They're coming fast. And so Duker's like, we got to run. Everybody's got to run. And the description here of the relentless running to these people that have been through so much, and it's right there. It's right there. You can see the city. You just got to get there. But some just can't make it. They collapse. They die in mid-run.
Some of them just sit down, just accept they're like, I'm dying now. Like I'm not. I can't. Brutal.
Just so brutal.
And especially like the gut-wrenching moment where they're like, the gates have been spotted. They're like, and what do they look like? And they're like, closed, man. Yeah. He's like, you keep running. Those gates better open.
Yeah. And we have that even more gut-wrenching moment, which is when he sees the little 18-month-old kid who's weirdly silent and not even crying and just kind of walking. Gosh. And he leans over on his horse and scoops him up. Mm-hmm. Just excruciating. I mean, very powerful stuff. Mm-hmm. And then we cut to our favorite girl, Apt, and her little baby boy, Panic. Which, what a great name for the kid, Panic.
I know.
I love that. And they meet with Cotillion, and I thought the scene was really interesting and cool. And we never get to hear what Apt says. It's just clicks and sound, weird demon sounds. But Cotillion's like, it's like talking to I don't know, Snuffleupagus or something. And it's like, yep, oh, you did.
He's talking to R2D2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's much better.
I've never seen something like this done in a book before.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. But
that was cool.
And it's so interesting because this is the one section that I did go through and I read twice because I'm like, I feel like there's so much in these little conversations that feel so lighthearted. Cotillion's like, what's up? Oh no, that's silly. Oh, okay. All right. It just feels so like such a different tone than the other conversations that happened in the book.
Call me Uncle Cotillion. I mean, it's so cute. Like the impression that I had of Cotillion from the beginning of Gardens of the Moon, where it's like, I'm going to eat your soul. It's like, I'm going to possess the Fisher girl. And now I'm like, it's just Dancer.
He's Dancer. Yeah.
Uncle Cotillion.
So.
And he's like, I'm so glad you make me feel emotions again after I ascended to godhood.
Yeah. Oh, man. The Apt and her baby. And he's like, you're messing that baby up, girl. You can't. And then it's like clicks and sounds. And he's like, but now he's not part of either. So, she's like, I'm giving him a home. And he'll be part of both worlds or whatever. Like, that's like what the argument kind of is. And he's like, no. Now he's just a freak. He's got his one eye. He's got his freaky sharp teeth that makes him even be like, ugh. Yeah. Anyway, you want to see the other kids?
Yeah. And really kind of dark and disturbing in a very lighthearted way, but very dark and disturbing where the kid's like, he's like, what do you remember? He's like, I remember being nailed to a cross. It's like, oh, you remember that? Yeah. Why do you think they did that? I was bad. It's like, ooh, that makes me feel terrible. Very, very good stuff, I thought. And he's like, my father said I shouldn't do bad things, and I did, and so of course I was punished. It's like, no, kid, it's not your fault. They're giant a-holes. I thought that was really beautiful, but also interesting that Panic can see things that Cotillion can't.
It's so interesting. Calls it the shadow. You can see into the shadow hold and like the time before. But my understanding of like the Shadow Warren that they're in is that was a new Warren, right? That was
Right.
when
When
Shadow
they
Throne,
ascended.
when they ascended.
Yeah.
But if he can see into the past of Shadowhold, does that say that they did they ascend and create the new Warren entirely, or are they sort of Kellanved and Dancer almost infiltrating existing magics, existing Warrens? And he's like, oh, apt, you're right, this kid is special. Let's hang out and you can tell me more about this thing that I claim to own.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. That was what I got too, is that they sort of assumed the mantle of a more ancient Warren and repurposed it and like our squatters, basically. Yeah. Very interesting stuff. And I don't know if now is the time to bring this up, but and I've said this many times over many episodes, all of these different sides, we're about to get to chapter 21 where, my heart goes out and has gone out. This entire chain of dogs has gone out to these Malazan refugees who you can't help but feel for. They're being slaughtered by the thousands by this rebellion. But also I'm sympathetic to the rebellion. And we have Apt, who is going to protect Kalam, as assigned by Shaik, who is our girl Felisin. So that, and Felisin is kind of now at this point kind of behaving in an honorable way. I don't know if she's becoming the villain that you want her to become. I feel like she's trying to do what's right, like adopting the orphan kids and kind of trying to focus this fury in a way.
But it's all to her own end.
So you still feel like she's villainous?
I still I think that she is still selfish. I think that everything that she's doing, she's like, I'll play this part. Tavore, I'm coming for you.
Right.
Like, that is what I read from everything that she does. Everything is, it's not this noble thing. I think adopting the child is, she, wants to be the family that she didn't have for herself, or even just bring somebody, like immediately seizing the opportunity to brainwash this person that they can raise for themselves. But I see her acting more nobly in that she's not acting so petty, but I don't think she's any less selfish than she has been.
All right. Well, I think you and I read her a little differently in that I don't have such a negative view of her. I really do. Maybe it's because I'm inside her POV so frequently, I think I sympathize more with her, but I still find the machinations of the different sides of these conflicts to be so interesting, because I genuinely don't know who I'm rooting for.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for all sides at various times. And the allegiances are so complex. The web of allegiances are so complex that I don't really know
what's
what
right.
Yeah, right. There is no right. It's all shades of gray, which is fascinating. But like, we're in the second book of this massive series, and I still don't know like what I want to happen.
I am on the side of Mappo.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before we get to chapter 21, because I think chapter 21, it was, I pulled it up and I was like, oh, it's a short little guy. And then I'm like, oh, this is because I need the time to recover. Was Kalam on the boat in chapter 21?
No, it's 20. It's the end of 20. It's this is when Salkilan comes out and basically says everybody's asleep on the boat. It's super weird. Kalam's like, this is not right. And Salkilan's like, hey, bro.
I like that it starts with like Kalam, like hands on the railing, kind of having like we're like getting the docks, but we have to wait till the next day. And then like the horrific, eerie nature of it kind of like creeps in until eventually Kalam's like, I can't move.
Yeah.
It's like a nice little crescendo of tension.
it's such a cool gradual effect that this strange Warren has, where it's like, I don't know what day it is. I'm weirdly tired. I'm making dumb decisions. And eventually I can't even move. It's like, it's such a cool, very cinematic to me,
Yeah.
And Saul Kalam comes up and it's like, guess what? I'm the reason this all happened. I honestly, so many times earlier in the book thought, like, what? There's no reveal that Saul Kalam could be that would be surprising to me. Like, I couldn't fathom who he could be. But of course, he's Pearl, the red blade that we saw, or not. I guess is he a red blade or he's a claw technically?
He's a claw. Yeah, it's like we deal with our own. Like you should have never left the claws, buddy.
Yeah,
because now we gotta get you.
Yeah. He's like, you could have led the claws, but you had to go this way. Stabs Kalam, dumps him over the side into the sharks. Now Pearl's like, oh, I guess I got to kill the captain. And then Apt appears out of nowhere like, booyah, I got to save my boy. But Apt is like, hey, wasn't Kalam here just a second ago? Or, Panic's like, wasn't Kalam here just a second ago? And it's like, demon.
Yeah.
Such a cool moment. Such a cool reveal. Tell me what you think about it being Pearl. And I mean, I wanted to like Saul Kalam. I'd said that on a previous episode. Big time wrong about that. But I was like, I want them to be buddies. I really like this character. But so much cooler that there was a backstab and a betrayal. And this revelation that, like, you're the reason we assassinated Shaikh. Like, you made that happen. We followed you. You let us write to her because we gave you the book. We said, deliver it to her. You did it. We got to her. We assassinated her. Your fault.
Salk, or Pearl, I guess, as the character, like, holistically makes me giggle because he's so, I don't know, he's so, like, thirsty for approval. Like, even before, like, he Scooby-Doo pulls off the mask to be like, actually, I'm this guy.
Yeah.
He's so, it, like, reads as, like, insecure in a particular way. Like, very confident being like, I think you actually want to be friends with me. I think we're definitely friends. And I'm like, I know that guy. We're not friends. This is a parasocial relationship. Like, this is not happening, Salk. Stop trying to make it happen, Salk. So he's like so desperate. And then he locks Kalam down. And rather than just like doing his claw duty, even just being like, hey, you don't leave the claws, stab into the water. He's like, now I have to do the thing where I tell you all the things so you can be like, whoa, he was really cool in your last death moments. It's like, so, okay, we get it. You really like yourself, or like whatever kind of weird insecurities it is.
Yeah.
And then even like before he throws he like fights Apt a little bit and he's like, okay, so you're pretty good. But you know what? My job here is actually done. I don't have to fight you. Demon runs away. He's like a little bit of like an insecure kind of coward, or like, I guess like smart decision making, but he's got that like a little bit of a narcissism to him. And he's always had this, it's more narcissism than it is, I guess, insecurity.
Yeah.
Maybe those things are closely tied, but like that, it's like gives me the giggles when he's like needs to do the villainy kind of, here was my master plan, Mr. Bond.
Yeah.
When it's like, I know Kalam, he gonna come get you. I don't think the sharks got him dead yet, buddy. Sorry.
Oh, there's definitely more to that story. Yes. Especially because of what happens next, which is, Manala, like, I'm coming for you, buddy. On the horse, like, brum, 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 over the edge of the boat. Like, horse is like, what? This was a bad decision. Splash.
I was thinking, like, is it really, like, faster to try and get the horse to swim?
Yeah. I kept waiting for some cool reveal of, like, the horse flies or something. But she's just like, nope. Going into the
this
drink.
horse has actually webbed hooves.
Yeah. Horse is like, I'll do anything for you. Oh, this was a terrible idea.
Are those sharks? Oh my God.
Yeah. I can't wait till like the next scene where it's like the horse is just doggy paddling to the shore.
Yeah.
And then I love too also the people on the boat are like, that is the craziest S I've ever seen in my life. We're gonna go help her. I gotta respect that. I gotta respect you. Jumped with the horse. You're so cool. We're gonna
Anybody
help you
who's got that kind of conviction, I'm sure it's important and
okay
worthy.
in my
worthy.
book. Yeah. But even before that, we have the captain waking up from his stupor of the weird Warren, the foggy brained Warren, and the first mate calls him Carther.
And
that's
the first time we've heard his name, right?
First time we've heard his name.
Yeah.
And he says, "Shut your face! I drowned years ago. Remember?" That seems very significant. Very significant. Yeah. So I don't know what that's all about, but I'm excited to learn. And also, I love how they show up and they're like, "Oh, that big scary demon that came out of the bottle is easily dispatched." Apt is rad. Apt had no problem with the demon. Salkinline's like, "Ha ha, demon!" And Apt is like, beep, beep, no problem.
Yeah,
no problem. All right, so I know we're already running long, but we got to talk about chapter 21.
Yeah.
I think one of the most powerful things I've ever read. Just an incredible chapter of book. It starts with Felisin Sheik, sort of unleashing this crazy knife of whirlwind, talking about the elemental forces in opposition. And then we basically get to Duker inside the gates, the city gates, the safety of the city gates, standing on the wall with Nether and Malik Rel, flashback to Malik Rel from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And our friend Pormqual.
Yeah, there is one thing I wanted to mention before I get in there. As they're basically like 12 feet from the gate, and then the soldiers are allowed to come out and help them. And Captain Kenib, I believe, was one of the people traveling with Kalam earlier in the desert. So
that's
Kenib
right.
is the one who rushes out. And
he's the one that actually takes the 18-month-old from Duker too.
Yeah.
So this is incredibly amazing. They're just standing there watching Pormqual, too cowardly to send the troops out to lend aid, and they're so close. They've gone so far. This incredible journey, this chain of dogs, this incredible, brutal march through the desert, and they're so close. And there is Bolt and Coltaine and the last vestiges of the army and some sappers, and they don't even have any weapons anymore. They're using their body and their bones to protect Coltaine the last bit, and they're just getting slaughtered. And
Pormqual, he's not dressed like as far as I can tell, like a military man. He's in like fineries.
Yeah.
Despicable.
Yeah. And they watch, Bolt die, Corporal List dies. The dogs are even trying to leap in, and they're getting slaughtered. Everybody is just getting slaughtered. And in the middle of it all, Coltaine is still just standing, hacking and slashing. And finally, he is even overtaken by this mass of bodies. And out from that, he is posted on this cross. But they won't let him die. They literally are pelting him with chunks of flesh from his own companions. Just a incredible image.
Like Nil and Nether said, like they couldn't get a read on Coltaine. So the fact that he showed up at all, they were like in shock that he had made it this far, and that's why the army never caught them, is because they were fighting so hard the whole time, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we would have felt." We would have felt if Coltaine died.
Yeah.
We're sure of that. And then you see like the result of what that would have been is they're like screaming in agony while this is all happening.
Yeah.
Begging the army, begging Pormqual, begging anybody to like release Coltaine.
Yeah.
because
Well,
it's too much.
yeah. I mean, they just, at that point, she's scratching her own face, almost scratching her eyes
She's
out.
ripping her hair out.
Ugh.
She's bleeding. Oh my gosh.
And at that point, they just want him to be released, his soul to be released.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it so powerful. Not only is this heroic man who's given everything of himself to shepherd these refugees, this unfathomable amount of, this distance that is through the worst of hell to get there, and is almost there, and is literally giving every last bit to save, to ensure they arrive. Some of them arrive, but and that person is overtaken at the end. That alone is powerful. The fact that they won't let him die, powerful. But then this thing that has been established of the fact that, like, Sormo Inath, whose death, by the way, we didn't even mention last week, was powerful in and of itself, with the butterflies and the arm coming up and the butterflies swarming. Incredible sequence there that we.
Sormo's like,
yeah, total Terminator 2 moment.
Yeah.
I mean, that was an exquisite final moment, but just pummeled with arrows. But this thing that has been established, that the crows will come and take the soul, and the sort of like bigger and more badass your soul is, the more crows it takes. And so
and Sormo was huge with like 11. It was 11
unprecedented
crows.
11. And Coltaine has got this massive swarm of crows coming to get his soul. And Corbo Dom is there just obliterating them with magic, preventing his soul from taken. Like, insult to injury. Just,
it's like, not only is he like tactically sinister enough to understand I have to keep him alive so that his soul won't be taken, like, absolutely repugnant, but I'm also going to destroy the thing that could ever have possibly held all of you. It's like what that means in this book is just like so, it's just so much. It's so heavy and so tragic. And you just, at least I wanted Coltaine to have everything. And he just gave everything. And in the end was not even given release from the burden of the pain of losing it all.
And it truly is the illustration of a fate worse than death, right? This is the fate worse than death for him. And Corbo Dom knows it and is like showing it to everybody. I refuse to let these crows take you. I will just stand here and use my magic to prevent your soul from being taken. Just an incredibly, and the fact that everybody is witnessing it, and it's so close, and they're just all standing there watching as this goes down. What an incredibly staged scene. I see it so vividly in my mind. And then
all the soldiers, like, basically like vibrating with rage, but like they're still soldiers. They're still listening to the orders, which is to hold on the wall and not do anything.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And then they call for Squint, who evidently is like the best archer.
Which is like a very cute name for Squint, picturing.
I love his little description. Like, he walks up, he's like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't even know if I can do it. And the description of that moment of him, like the bow itself, even when drawn, is as big as he is. He pulls it, it brushes against the stubble of his beard, and he's like, I don't know. And then he shoots it. He's aiming for the chest, and he shoots too high, and it in the forehead. Like, I texted you as I was finishing the book or that section, and I literally had tears streaming down my face. Like, I had an acting teacher once who said, the only thing that will move people, truly move them, is great beauty or great courage. And I thought that scene had both.
Yeah.
Right? It was beautiful. And it was this character that we barely even know in a lot of ways. We've never been inside Coltaine's POV. We've never had long dialogues. I mean, he must have said 15 words the entire novel.
Mm-hmm.
We've certainly witnessed his actions, his capability of leading these troops, making great decisions, and the ability to protect these people in a lot of ways, making very shrewd, tactical judgments in how to protect the most people, and what he's willing to do, and the loyalty he's inspired.
Mm-hmm.
But the emotional place that I got to in seeing this great courage in this man to stand up and say, I will make sure, I will do something to get, and Erikson is very clear to say they did it for the children.
Yeah.
It makes me emotional right now. Like I'm an incredible scene.
Yeah. Incredible scene. And like Coltaine just in like looking over everything, like who he is. Like we don't even, like when we meet him, we don't know what kind of man he is. You're like, okay, this guy works for the Empress. We've been a lot sort of against the Empress. This guy probably sucks in like certain ways. He's probably maybe shrewd, but he's like working. When we meet him, it kind of feels like he's working for the enemy in a way.
Yeah, he's brusque. He's short with people. He's a big like war guy. It's like, I'm not gonna like this dude. Yeah,
and then every action that he takes like shows who he is without us ever having to know it like explicitly, with him being like, I'm making these choices. It's like even in the end, like the choices of the Wiccans that he sends with Duker to like make the deal and take the escort. It's like he takes the youngest warriors, like the people who still have the most life to live, and they are resentful of that because they want to be there and they want to fight, but they're like doing just, again, good soldiers doing what they're told. And every choice he makes just paints a picture of like the most honorable guy. It's just what a beautiful legacy we witness. Like again, especially because we're through the eyes of Duker. Basically, every time we're with that group, we see like literally what the history books would say about Coltaine, and it is, it's.
You have brought it up numerous times, and I totally concur that how much more powerful it is watching it from afar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not quite understanding Coltaine the whole time. Duker confused at some of the decisions that are being made, kept in the dark about some, strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So many other fantasy novels would revel in giving us Coltaine's story, right?
Yes.
He's the most powerful badass. He's the guy that, could punch out a near ascendant, break the nose of a near ascendant. He's the guy. He's the leader of leaders. He's the tactician of tacticians. He is the coolest character in any room, right? And there's so many novels where the author wants you to hang out with the coolest character that they can conceive, right?
Yeah.
You want to be with the coolest character. And yet this novel, we see it from afar. We see the rank and file's view of him. We see his big actions. We see him in the distance doing things. And even here, it's in the distance that we see his death from afar also.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so powerful. It's so much more impactful for me because you're witnessing it through the eyes of the people's lives he's affected.
Yeah. And in like directly juxtaposed with being on the wall, and Pormcall being described as actively like cowering even away from like the glare of Duker on the wall with them, and him saying there's too many people, it is impossible for me to save him.
Yeah.
Knowing everything that Coltaine has been through.
Right,
With how
exactly.
many people. You want to talk impossible? We've been traveling for 9 months.
Yeah. Yeah. That guy has done the impossible over and over and over again to save all these people, and you can't lift a finger to save him.
30 feet out of your own gate to save this guy. Despicable.
I mean, incredible. And the act of mercy to shoot the arrow into his head. I mean, I was just I was bawling. I was like, it's just an amazing, beautiful, courageous scene.
Yeah.
And we're not done with this novel yet. I mean, there's more to come. So I mean, again, a huge thank you. I apologize for not looking up your username on the Discord, but our friend in the Discord who has been so great, having read these novels multiple times and helping us decide in what order and how much to read for each episode. This was the perfect stopping point. If this had been the first chapter of the last section, I think it wouldn't have felt quite the same for us. I just love that we ended on that moment. I closed that book. I texted you. I'm sitting there I was on my hammock outside in the nice summer, and I just like tears on my face, and it's just like exhale. So thank you for telling us to read 4 chapters this week. I'm so glad we did. We do have our favorite sentences, although there were a lot to choose from this week, I thought. I'm curious what you came up with as your favorite sentence.
Let me get them if I can remember how to use.
I do have one that, I mean, I don't want to step on anything that you might have chosen.
Yeah, I've got 2. One of them might be yours, though.
Yeah, I feel like one of them might be yours, too. There's a little sequence that I found really powerful that it is not really my favorite sentence, but I wanted to read it in the spirit of what we've done the last few weeks, where these like very resonant, introspectful, philosophical observations that Erikson seems to have an infinite well of in these novels. You can stop me if this is your sentence, but the thing about pogroms, am I pronouncing that correctly? Pogroms, which are, basically genocide. Pogroms need no reason, sir. None that can weather challenge in any case. Difference in kind is the first recognition, the only one needed, in fact. Land, domination, preemptive attacks, all just excuses, mundane justifications that do nothing but disguise the simple distinction: they are not us. We are not them.
That I liked. I couldn't figure out exactly what part of that I wanted to highlight, but you're right. Just all of them, all of it.
Too good. I mean, and how resonant is that for today?
Yeah.
With life in the world now. Anyway, go ahead. What's your sentence?
I have I have 2. One is like truly like a single sentence that I really liked, but
I have one of those too.
So what am I? Okay, here's my. Okay, no, it's not. It's 2 sentences, but here was one that is just something that I thought was very evocative, but it wasn't. It just showed like what they've been through, but it's kind of gruesome. So Dyrker stepped over the body and stood for a moment in the dust it had raised. The short sword in his right hand was glued there by blood, announcing every shift of his grip with a thick, sobbing sound. And we sort of cut to like Dyrker like in the middle of the thick of it, and now he's just covered in blood. Like we haven't seen all the moments that led up to that, but you can picture every single one.
Yeah. And
even the fact that it's not like a thick, like wet sound; it's a sobbing sound. It's like everything is steeped in the sadness and the tragedy of what they're going through just to get to the end of this journey.
That was my other sentence.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, I love that. Like the idea that blood itself glued the sword to his hand. What a metaphor, right? That you can't not fight based on, like, all you have left is your hand is a sword now. It's glued to your hand. All you can do is hack. And why? because you've been hacking.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
And the last section that I had was when Duker and the chain of dogs makes it past the gates, and the release of the army and the refugees when they get inside. Joy wrought with dark, blistering anguish, wordless screams, uncontrolled wailing. A stranger would have believed that some horror stalked the camp. A stranger would not have understood the release that the historian heard, the sounds that his own soul answered with burning pain, making him blink at the stars that blurred and swam overhead. Oh, sorry, that's not when they got to the camp. It's like a day after they've left Coltaine in the group and they all feel safe-ish for the first time.
Yeah.
That's when that happened. And even Nil and Nether are saying, like, this release that we're feeling of these people, it's too soon. Like, we're not safe yet. And Duker's like, we can't stop that. There's nothing we can do. So just the relief, but again, not like it's joy, but it's not communicated in a way that feels joyful. It's not something that feels like, oh, beautiful and poetic, because it's not. They're barely scraping by, and they have one large moment of reprieve where they feel like they're going to be fine. And I just love that. I love that. You can't control when people are going to have this, and it happened.
Yeah. It's amazing. I've never really seen this. There may be lots of examples of it that I'm just not aware of, but I've never really seen a novel or a movie or a narrative that is this journey of a beleaguered, like this set of soldiers trying to protect refugees across a long period of time. I think that's such a powerful. It's almost Mad Max Fury Road. It's almost like we got to get from one place to another, and we got to protect the people here, and it's going to be bad, and there's going to be lots of skirmishes and fights along the way. But that journey was so harrowing and so powerful, and there were so many incredible moments along the way. And then you get to that crescendo at the end of like, we're right there. We've gone through so much. And even not just Coltaine and Bolt and those folks we care about and see them dying steps away from reaching their goal, but the rank and file refugees who, like you said, are just sitting down or collapsing. They made it this far through impossible odds, through the worst horrors you can imagine. And so many other people didn't even get close to this. And here they made it, and it's just like, no, I can't. Like, it's just like that tragedy.
You can see the gates,
yeah,
and you cannot take another step.
Yeah, powerful stuff. Just incredible writing, incredibly poetic, lyrical writing. Awesome. All right, well, it's the time of the show where we send you off with recommendations of some other books, and I'm curious what you would like to recommend this week, Lana.
Well, I did have another book that I was going to recommend, but I'm actually going to recommend the book I mentioned earlier in the episode, which is The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon by Stephen King. It was a great read. It's not, Stephen King does a lot of very big books. I mean, Stephen King does a lot of books in general, but this one, like on I feel like it's different because we're in like this young girl's perspective. It is very much like the premise of it is a girl who goes on a hike with her family, and she's a teenager, and she's like, "Meh, my parents are so annoying," kind of thing, but then goes off into the woods for a bio break and kind of gets lost. And the sort of surrealist horror of like her own thoughts and just trying to survive in this wilderness by herself. And I read it as a young child, and it wasn't like too gruesome or horrific. It's like light on the horror and just interesting character work, as he always has. So I highly recommend.
There's a King I have not read yet. So that's a good recommendation. Yeah. I'd already sort of shows you how much older I am. I'd already sort of like left my King phase by the time that book was coming out.
Does anybody leave their King phase? He still writes like 10 books a minute.
I know, but I feel like at this point, I don't know. I told you I read 1163, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And that book has one of the coolest first acts of a book. It is so cool. One of the coolest ideas about time travel. So cool. And it, my God, does it just come to a rumbling, boring petering out. It's just like,
yeah. Doom McKee's kind of like that. It's like so interesting in the last couple chapters. Like kind of weird and not satisfied. Oh wow, it's
I think
interesting.
That's his modus operandi. Unfortunately, like he does, he famously doesn't have a plan. He just starts writing, and then and I feel like, yeah, you know what? It shows. Anyway, I'm going to recommend a fantasy novel. I haven't done a lot of true fantasy novel recommendations, but this one I read very recently. And it is a very different tone than Deadhouse Gates. We're talking about how dark and how brutal and how harrowing this sequence was today. So I'm going to recommend something that's much lighter, almost to the point of silliness, but delightful. I really enjoyed it. It's called The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. This is, I believe, the first of several novels. It certainly ends without everything resolved. But it is from one character's point of view, and that character is one that usually isn't the main character of a fantasy story. It's usually the side character. It's a thief, but he's kind of this devil may care. I hate all this. You're inside his brain, and you're constantly hearing his thoughts about what he thinks about everybody, and it's funny and fun. There's one really wonderful detail about the world. Like, he's part of this very strict Thieves Guild, and one of the requirements of this Thieves Guild is you get a tattoo on your face that everybody can see, which allows anyone to walk up to you and slap you in the face, and you are not allowed to retaliate in any way. If you do, you're out of the guild and they murder you. So it's like constantly like people walking up and being like, hey, I noticed your tattoo. And he's like, yeah, all right, go ahead, take your best shot. And then they smack him. It's just very funny and fun. And it's got a lot of adventure and stuff. There's some really cool action sequences. Very brisk read. The Black Tongue Thief is what it's called. And I had fun with it. I liked it. All right. That's it for this episode. Next week, we're finishing novel 2 of the Malazan Books of the Fallen. We are concluding Deadhouse Gates. 3 more chapters. I cannot wait to see how this all comes together and what the ending is gonna be. I mean, do you have any predictions that you want to say? I don't know.
No.
I think we need to see what happens with Kalam. I think we definitely need to, I think we're going to get confirmation that he's not dead. Mm-hmm. Do you think Coltaine is dead? Like for deads, he's dead?
No way. Oh, I think his body is.
Yeah, right. You think we'll have a sort of reborn Coltaine at some point?
I think maybe there'll be like a hint in it that Coltaine is being reborn, but I could also see that like the fact that all the ravens were there and they described something left that body.
Right.
And the ravens did their thing.
Yeah.
Is like, to me, very heavily already like, okay, we know something's happening there. He's fine, quote unquote fine. My only prediction is that we get one more kind of sassy, unexpected surprise. Like Dujek is gonna come with the TTG or whatever and be like, "What are you doing? We're all getting killed over here. Get back over there," or something. Like I picture one more sassy surprise, I guess.
All right. Stay tuned for our sassy surprise assessment next week. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for commenting on these videos, and thanks for participating in our Discord. Couldn't remember that word. Thanks for participating in the Discord, which is at 5x5 DLC on Discord. You can always join. There's a book club section there and Deadhouse Gates subsection. So please do. We love hearing your comments and questions, suggestions for other topics. We'll be back next week. Until then, it is time to dance it out.
When the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality, open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. Join a book won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with your friends. So join the book club by DLC.